I just described every country in the world with only one word. Now it's time for the US states and also Canadian provinces. I'm actually a little bit worried about that one. I'm thinking about making this series an annual thing because the words I use to describe these places always changes. I could probably technically make this a weekly series and there'd be different results every time. Don't ask me why, but the way we're going to randomly select these US states and Canadian provinces is by using cards. It was the only thing I could find online. Oh, no, not that. That is not the first place I was hoping to describe here. You're literally kind of getting a phrase. I'm just gonna put a question mark. I believe, I'm so sorry for this. I'm so sorry. I just want to say the huh comes from the pronunciation, not necessarily the territory itself. Saskatchewan. I always have to look up the pronunciation here.
Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan. But I feel like that's not technically right. Please give me an easier one than that. Next one, South Dakota. Mount Rushmore. I guess to stick to the theme, I can't technically put Mount, so I'll just put Rushmore. I was just gonna say something about like your capital, Sioux Falls. Also, that is not your capital. I'm so sorry. I think I was thinking about the Suez Canal for some reason. Next up, we've got Nebraska. That's an easy one. And directly south of South Dakota, it's just corn. It's gonna say corn huskers. I like the corn huskers. So far, so good. Pennsylvania. I'm gonna be honest, I just think of the Steelers. And I think of that culture, just like, you know, hard working. I guess there's also Scranton. I think of The Office, but Steelers was the first thing that came to my mind. Next up, that's cheese, easily. Actually, you know what? It might not be this time. It might be alcohol. Wisconsin has a severe problem with this. Sorry that you can barely read that. I think I reviewed this map about a year ago, and I cannot get it out of my head. The 50 drunkest counties come from almost this singular state. Next up, we've got Manitoba. Oh, man. That one is hard. I'm gonna be honest, for some reason, the first word that came to my head was flag. And for some reason, I thought it was gonna be a cool one. It's not a cool one. Maybe that's why it came to my head, because they don't have a very nice flag, in my opinion. I mean, it's basically just the old Canadian flag with a little twist on it. I know there's a couple states and provinces that are gonna pop up here soon enough, and I'm kind of scared about it. Next up, we've got New Mexico. And I am so sorry that I have to do this to you. And it's literally just because of Breaking Bad. That one television program probably like increased tourism here by 3,000%. People are still to this day throwing pizzas on top of the Breaking Bad house. Next up, we've got Alabama, my birth state. I don't know if I need to finish this, but you know what? I'm going with the Habsburgs because Alabama and Austria, at least the Austrian monarch at that time, had a lot of things in common. Let's just say they kept it in the family. I was gonna say space, you know, but then I'd be biased because it's my birth state. You know, I know what everyone else thinks of Alabama. I really need to go back and visit. I'm trying really hard to plan a video where I go back and visit Alabama. It's been a minute. Next up, we've got Nevada. It's just Las Vegas. That's technically 2 words. Honestly, as a Californian, I'm gonna change that up. Oh, that's 2 words too. I'm gonna say tax-free. Is tax-free 1 word? Can I just make up my own word right now? As a Californian, I'm pretty sure all of us think of this state as just tax-free zone. That's why you move there is for that. It's gonna be Vegas, but I mean, Las Vegas is 2 words, and I don't know. Next, we have Idaho. It's potatoes? Don't they produce the most potatoes? There was also, like, I believe an Elon Musk corporation moved to Idaho. Okay, yeah, I was right. Leading potato state in all of the US. I don't know why I always remember that. I never talk about it. I just read that fact once and I can't get it out of my head. I also kind of think about how they want to expand Idaho, like they want to give some of Oregon and Washington's land to Idaho. I don't know how I'm supposed to summarize that into 1 word. Yeah, we're going potato. Whatever. Next up, Florida. Let's go. I think, it's chaos. I honestly think of chaos, and I like Florida, to be honest. I technically have been there, but there's just so much to Florida. You have the northern part, which is completely different than like the southern part with Miami. You got Disney World in the center. You got Tampa and Jacksonville. All the Florida men. Like, it's a good chaos. Sometimes you need a little bit of chaos. Anarchy can be fun. Next up, it's Massachusetts. I'm gonna really try hard to not just summarize these states by 1 city, but this has got to be Boston. What else is there? I've been to Massachusetts. I've been to Boston. I know they're also known for their like really good schools. They're really good universities. Kind of want to pick accent too. Can I just do like a little parentheses and do accent? I feel like that goes hand in hand with Boston because Boston accent anyways. I could have also talked about how they threw the tea in the water for the British. There's still so many more. We've got South Carolina. Honestly, I just think about North Carolina. I know that's not fair. I just think of like North Carolina, but more in the deep South. I think of college football. I like college football. I know everyone technically defines the region of the deep South a little bit differently. I still think of South Carolina as like the border of that. Like for sure in the North Carolina, you're not in there anymore. Okay, this is gonna seem really dumb, South Carolina getting south, but it's bigger meaning than that. Like I think of the South, like we're still talking the South, a regional and cultural part of the U.S. You know what I mean? Technically, even Wikipedia themselves agrees with me that South Carolina is technically the Deep South. Someone that came from the Deep South. I really just need to return to my roots down there one day. Next up, Ohio. It's just the memes. I don't think even Florida themselves has been like just memed. The thing is, Florida has other things. There's so much to talk about when it comes to Florida. I don't know anything to talk about when it comes to Ohio, except it's just a meme. Like there's the states, Columbus, and you know, their rivalry with Michigan, but it's just a meme at this point. Next up, we've got Utah. It's Mormons and bikes, and it's really flat. My grandma was actually born in Utah. I don't know why. That's another thing that comes up for me. We're keeping it going with next, Ontario. Oh, people. I know that's weird, but most people just live in Ontario, specifically this part near Toronto. This single province in Canada contains almost 40% of all of Canada's population, which is funny because it's actually not that many people compared to like US states, but it's a lot of people compared for Canada. Next up, Missouri. The river. I had a chance to go to Missouri once. I really regret that I didn't do it. I need to pull the trigger on that so it doesn't get river again next time. Next up, oh wow. Oh no. I have no idea. Province Edward Island. I'll be honest, I forget about this place all the time. I'm sorry, but you're getting exist with a question mark. It's the equivalent to Wyoming for the states. It actually has far less population than Wyoming, but that's still not the bottom of the list for Canada. Hopefully I don't get another hard one like that. Louisiana. Man, there's so much to talk about here. Really love the places that have a lot of words that pop in my head to describe them. This is just getting France though. I think about the French people, the Creole culture and language. I think about what France had it. I think about New Orleans. I think about Mardi Gras. I think France summarizes a lot of those ideas. Next up, oh, there, look at that! Speaking of which, can I describe them with the same word? I feel like that's not fair. Okay, there's a slight variation, but it's more like French, yeah. Quebec is probably the place I want to visit first in Canada. It's just so different. I've never been to Canada, but you know, one day. I don't think we'll have, yeah, okay, I didn't think we were gonna stick to the theme. California, there's so much to say. This is where I currently live, where I've lived for most of my life. I'm sorry, but this is the first thing I think of. It's just so expensive. It's nice, but it's expensive. There's a lot to it too, though. I mean, you've got inland California, you've got the mountains, you've got the beaches, you got the desert right here, you've got the beginning of Cascadia up in the north. At the end of the day, it's just really expensive, though. Please, another easy one. I don't like to describe a place with just a single city, but what else is there for Illinois? Getting Seatown for Chicago. I believe I looked up that 75%, or no, it's 2/3 of the population live in the county of Chicago. Or it might be 75%. I can't even remember. I just realized Seatown might be a nickname for Cleveland. I actually needed to put Chi-Town. I couldn't fit it. Next up, we've got Rhode Island. It's just small. Probably too late to merge some of these smaller East Coast states because we have like the perfect round number of 50 US states. Maybe if like Washington DC becomes a state, then you can merge, I don't know, Rhode Island. I mean, then I guess Washington DC would be the small state, but whatever. Next up, we've got Oklahoma. I've been meeting a lot of people from Oklahoma recently, or people that have gone to Oklahoma. I think about just kind of the rivalry they have with Texas. They are not fans of them down there. Next up, Nova Scotia. I'll be honest, I think of Scotland. Scotland was here. Scotland's responsible for the name. Michigan. Man, there's a lot to say here too. I think unique, maybe, and it's purely because of their geography. They're unique in several ways, but I think of their most iconic feature, I guess, in their borders, and that's their Upper Peninsula. We got Texas. Man, there's so much to say here. I think about their independence. I think that that's what everyone thinks about. Like, whether it's in their history or how they always mention, even to this day, they want to be an independent state again. I mean, there's obviously like the cowboy culture. There's so much to say, which I think technically Texas can't just vote to be independent. They can only vote to break up into 5 or 6 states. I always keep hearing about that. It's like a common misconception. Next up, we've got Montana. I think of, you know what? Right now, I think of like beautiful. I don't think I've ever thought that before. It's everyone else that's put that in my head. I mean, maybe it is. I mean, it probably is, but it just seems like everyone around me is like seeing these TikToks and short videos about the amazing landscapes. Next up, Arizona. Oh man, it's so weird. I've never actually been to Arizona, even though I live right next to it. And maybe this is why. I just think of it as hot and a desert. And yeah, I don't know. I just think of it really just hot. We got New Jersey. Jersey, man. Oh, man. I think of it as like kind of the butt of a lot of jokes, which I never really understood, probably because I'm not from the East Coast. Can I just type in but? Everyone still to this day makes fun of Jersey, specifically like New Yorkers. Next up, we've got Colorado. I think of the snow. I guess I think of the Rockies. I think of Denver. I think of skiing, although I've never been skiing before. Next up is Georgia. I think of sweet tea. I'm just gonna do a big old T right there. I'm not even a tea person, but that's just what I imagine. Next up is North Carolina. To be honest, I think of the Tar Heels. I think of blue. They're sports teams, and they're just, I don't really know, to be honest. Why is that? I think of it as like a popular destination. A lot of people move there. I don't know. I just think of it blue, like a light blue, because they're university. This is the hardest one yet. It's even harder than the Canadian provinces. I don't know. Isn't Connecticut rich? It is so hard to describe this one. This and Delaware. Yeah, Connecticut is one of the wealthiest states in the entire U.S. How about Alaska? That's, I was gonna say beauty. That might get cold for me. Maybe cruises, because I know people take up cruises to Alaska. It's the most obvious one. It is summertime though. This is probably the best time to go to Alaska. Next up, Alberta. This is an easy one. This is the Texas of Canada to me. They got oil. They talk about going independent. They talk about joining the U.S. It is so Texas. I can't imagine anything else. Next up, North Dakota. I just picked cold for Alaska. I can't do cold again, but it does get really cold there. I think of Fargo, the show, and obviously Fargo is the city. There's a city in North Dakota named Fargo. Woo! Iowa. Man, what to talk about with Iowa? I feel like Iowa is on the border of a lot of different things. I mean, technically, don't people call it the Midwest still? But I always associate it with more like the flat states, Nebraska, Kansas. It's also the first state in our presidential elections that gets to vote in the primaries, right? Something like that. Can I do that primary? It might not be anymore, but that's how it used to be. So that's like the most important part of Iowa's existence for a while. It was like that. It is traditionally the first major electoral event of presidential primaries. Next up, I've got Maryland. Man, weird borders. That's kind of what I think of. I'm sorry. They're getting weird. What else? I don't know. Weird. I've been to Maryland, technically. I don't remember it because I think I was 12. Tennessee, country music. I also think about the giant Basque Pro Shop pyramid. I believe that's here. It's literally so beautiful. Next up, we've got New Hampshire. Where did I read this from? That New Hampshire has a bunch of swingers. Why is that the one thing that comes to my head? I don't know. Next up, Washington. Green, water, rain. But most importantly, depression. I'm sorry, it's just so big. Everyone talks about the depression up there. New York, oh man, what to say? That's so many things. I really like New York personally. I should say pizza. I just think of the buildings. Always fun to go there. New Brunswick. Oh, you know what? I think of flag too, because man, they got a good one. This is in the opposite meaning of the like other flag that I wrote down. This is, I think, a pretty cool flag. It is a bit messy. They got a lot going on, but I think it's kind of cool. Next up, we have Indiana. It's the Hoosiers, and it's their love for basketball, weirdly. You're just gonna get ball, because I can't write the whole thing. Next up, Arkansas. I think of Walmart. I was gonna go with the Hogs, because their football team is like the Razorbacks. This is where Walmart came from right there. Next up, Oregon, trees. Although technically, you know, Washington and Northern California also have a lot of trees because the whole Cascadia thing. They're really just, I don't know why they're even more so just trees. Vermont is, that's a weird one. How do I describe this? I always think of how they weren't a part of the original 13 colonies. Maybe I can write down territory, because it was just called the Vermont Territory. It's gonna be so weird. Not 13 colonies is what I mean, but that doesn't make, I don't know what I just did. British Columbia is getting Vancouver. I think of North Seattle. That's two words, I can't put it. That's so funny. I don't want to name states after just a single city, but I think this one doesn't count, because this is not a city inside of British Columbia. But yeah, I also think how it's funny that British Columbia is a province outside of England that still has the word British in it. Minnesota. There's a lot of things here. It's cold. I think of the Vikings, and I think of Nordic people because of the Vikings as well. Wyoming, there's a lot to say. Cowboys, but I don't want to write exist again, so instead I'll just put real with a question mark. That's better. A lot of rich people live there. Mississippi. Oh man, the brother of Alabama. I'll be honest, I think of my birth state, Alabama. I just think it's like the mirrored, it's like opposite land. It's not opposite land. It's just the same. It's always Mississippi and Alabama doing a lot of things together. Wait, that sounds weird. Hawaii, I'm gonna be honest right now. I'm thinking about how they still have a Union Jack on their flag. I've been to Hawaii. I don't really need to go back. I don't know why. I'm sorry. I already live by the beach in California, so it was like, it was the same to me. It just, some more ukulele music. But yeah, it's still the only U.S. state that has a Union Jack in it. There's obviously a lot of history behind that though. Virginia, I think history. Virginia has a lot of U.S. history in it, that's for sure. I mean, all the 13 colony states do, but definitely Virginia. I'm sorry, Kentucky. I just don't know what else. What else is there but the chicken? It's got to be so much worse, because I know that like Kentucky Fried Chicken is a really popular chain like around the world. So like the entire world just thinks of the chicken there, and I don't think they're ever going to stop that. Maybe they don't want to stop that, because maybe the other stereotypes would be much worse. Kansas is getting, why it was the first thing that popped in my head. What's that movie? Dorothy. Wizard of Oz. There's too many words, but here you go. Tornado. There you go. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna be honest. I think of dogs. There's two popular dog breeds in here. West Virginia. I was just looking up West Virginia recently. I am so sorry here, West Virginia, but unfortunately the John Denver West Virginia song is no longer like popular in the meme culture, so like I don't know. Yeah, I'm sorry. We are almost okay. That is the one place I don't know. I think I finally did look this up because I literally could not think of a single word to describe Delaware with. Like, there's weird borders. I don't know why they exist. Aren't they really big in the medical industry? Like, they create a bunch of medical products or chemicals or something. I looked that up like a couple weeks ago. Medical stuff. But yeah, besides that, because they're borders, I don't get it. Probably have like misspelled so many of this stuff. Oh, Maine is a tough one too. I think of like coastal sea fishing. They like fish and stuff like that. Crabs, lighthouses, stuff, you know. Wait a second. We left off that the cards. The cards didn't put some of these states in there. Nobody for Yukon and the Northwest Territories. I mean, I switched that. I reverse that. Wait, no. Reverse all of that. You're gonna all get nobody lives here. And tundra. And bears, because I'm scared. So there you go. There's 3 provinces. Just, you know, deviate that. You know, put those words into, you know, wherever you want them to go. Scary. Again, I look like a psycho, but yeah, this is what I came up with. Big thanks to my patrons. I have cloned Drew, and I'm now training him to fight the imposter doing these videos. Subscribe to Drew now.
John Denver.
Australia is real. I am not a fat, normal, Argentinian amateur archaeologist. Inquisitor is annoying. Luxembourg, Robert, Rye, the Great Ralph, the Mexican, and why am I doing this?